To order. We have a quorum. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
No.
No one signed up for public comment. You should have within your packet the minutes of the February 24th, 2009 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries. You take a look at the agenda.
I have no changes.
Great. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. FY 2009 TIP amendments.
Three of these amendments were passed for recommendation. I'll let Jim give the speech, but I'm going to give a brief talk about these amendments. The rural transit amendment is for 4 buses and radios for the entire fleet, and need to make sure you're aware that this is not fiscally constrained in area, which is not necessarily a good thing, but we're competing for a statewide pot of $21 million, and we have to get this done before we can compete. And as soon as we know, we'll come back and change whatever it is to whatever we got. That's not great. Brookmont Boulevard Amendment, I want to make sure you know that there's no economic stimulus money involved in that amendment. That's a straight amendment. And then the IDOT amendment for Route 17. Jim, do you want to talk about the public comment period? Or do you want me to?
In a technicality for the Department of Transportation, because the cost had escalated from the time that the Route 17 project had originally been submitted for public participation, the Federal Highway Administration was strongly advocating that it go through another 15-day public involvement period if the new revised cost estimate was to hold. Otherwise, it would have been funded at a lesser federal portion. So the fact that the project had previously gone through a public involvement period, and that the cost had escalated with an incredible rising cost of construction, what the technical committee has recommended to the policy committee is that you approve the Route 17 amendment at its new $2.8 million cost estimate, and reduce the public involvement period for this amendment from 15 days to 7 days, and that way the state can take full advantage of the federal funding opportunity. The Federal Highway Administration folk were here, they agreed to it. It's good for IDOT, it's good for our community, so that's why we make that recommendation, as well as the other two, please.
Questions or comments on Illinois Route 17?
Any of the three, actually.
Moving right along, administrative modification.
Let's go ahead and take a vote on those three together. The rest of them don't require a vote.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I thought they were passed already.
They're recommended to you.
They come to you as a recommendation from technical.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to accept them. Is there any discussion? Under the rural transit amendments, so that is the only addition, 4 buses and the radios.
Mm-hmm. And then the area is the Illinois Route 17, changing from what's already in there.
Okay, and all of those are by the ARRA.
Except for Brookmont, yeah. Brookmont's
Well, this is
not.
still on the Kankakee Rural Transit Amendment.
Oh, okay. They're all there, you're right.
Brookmont Boulevard. I see where the commitment on the Kankakee County Planning Department is that the amendment to this is that Kankakee will be putting up $6.7 million. Is that how is this an amendment?
Because construction amounts were not in it before.
We didn't have construction in the entire TIP last time. Now it's being programmed for FY 2011.
Okay. And that was the earmark program, correct? That was not a,
The earmark program was just the original amount of money that was in there. The other money is coming from the ICC, which is the $10.1 million. There was an original $800,000 that was an earmark that we got from HW.
okay, so there was never any STPU money.
No.
Okay. So now it's just the amendment of the amount. IDOT, Op 17. I mean,
That's the 2.8 and
2.8 million
up from,
era fund, up from 1.7.
great. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Administrative modification, Armour Road.
The rules of this committee have allowed staff to change projects from year to year in their TIP, and we are asking and changing funding sources. We're asking to, well, we're telling you that we've made an administrative modification moving Armour Road from the FY 2011 program to the 2009, and the funding source has changed to the ERA program. And the total amount of money went from 3.45 to 3.9. We're allowed to make administrative modifications. All we have to do is tell you that we've made them, so consider yourself informed.
Informational purpose.
And how far does the project go?
The approval goes from 4552 over to Illinois 15,
Will that include any
excluding
of
the structure over the river.
there was talk of the Armour Road Route 50 improvements, and there was a light that was included at the exit from,
That's
that
being
included?
addressed in a separate contract with the intersection of 50 and Armour Road.
okay, so there will be no changes to the
No.
stop sign.
No, all that's being, the scope of work east of the railroad bridge overhead will be just milling and resurfacing. There's no geometric changes per se, widening or geometric work at those intersections.
Is that included in the Armour Road Route 50?
Yes, that's going to be included in the Armour Road Route 50 intersection, which it's PE 2 for $250,000 in the FY09. So that's phase 2 engineering is underway to do that study, though the construction is unfunded at this point in time.
So there will be no modifications other than milling probably east of the railroad bridge?
Not with this project of Armour Road, just milling and resurfacing.
This will be that east of the railroad bridge?
Yes,
All the way
correct.
Route 50?
All the way short of the intersection where you get into the turnings, the turn lanes and such. Just immediately west of the intersection.
And that's $3,900,000 in ARRA funds?
Correct,
Mhm.
yes. And west of the bridge is widening and resurfacing and traffic signal improvements with bi-directional turn.
Okay, and then that, the other provision of that is that once completed, that it'll be turned over to the village of Bourbonnais.
The village is under consideration right now, taking jurisdiction from 4552 to the west end of the railroad bridge.
But that's not a stipulation of this.
No, it is not.
Okay,
No.
thank you. Any other questions, comments? And the due dates for future amendments.
And just give you those dates. If you have an amendment that you wanted to act on for the April the 8th, either it is in public comment period right now, or it can't make it for the April 8th meeting. Just so you know. And I've got some extra stuff that I need to talk about that should be in a packet that Jim gave you when you came in or earlier. There's 3 things in that packet I want to make sure you're aware of. This is more for technical than it is for you folks, but I want to make sure you're just aware of it. The top thing in that packet is an email that talks about contractors for the ERA funds have to be certified with OMB, Certified Registered Contractors. Rob Hoffman brought this up at the last meeting, and it turns out that his comment was right. We think that you have to be certified. So if you are a local government that expects to receive money, you probably ought to start in that process now. I don't know how long it takes. We're going to start tomorrow trying to get the county into the process because we will receive money. Just so you know. There will be a lot of things that are going to be complicated about getting, this is not going to be money that you don't get without a fair amount of paperwork attached. That's the first one of it, the OMB certification requirement. The second thing in that packet is a fairly lengthy letter that talks about reporting requirements on ARRA. There's some verbiage at the front of that amendment or that memo. And then at the back of it is what I really wanted you to see. There's some tables that give reporting requirements, just so you get a hint of what's going to happen when ARRA really gets into full swing. I don't know that I need to give any more information than that, but there will be requirements.
We've asked the Department of Transportation for some investigation, some clarification regarding these OMB requirements for the surface transportation component. I understand that the transit component has been resolved, but we're going to look for some additional information and confirmation from DOT before the Highway Department moves ahead with its OMB submittals.
If you read it word for word, it means that if somebody bids for a project with ARRA funds, before they can receive money, they have to be certified with OMB to be able to receive money. So if you have bidders that you want to have work on a project immediately, they probably ought to be registering with OMB right now so they can receive money. It's going to get complicated.
Is that a done Brad Street?
I don't know. I haven't
I
started
was
yet.
told that. I don't know if it is or not.
I assume that we're going to have to give our tax exempt number for the county, whatever that number is, which I have a need for every 5 years. So. And the last thing in that packet is a letter from IDOT that changes the date for projects to be submitted from March the 25th to May the 1st. That makes some of the windows pretty complicated today to get in by that time period. Matter of fact, the amendment you just passed for Route 17, we're giving to Tom electronically, and Tom is racing to Springfield to give it to FHWA as we speak so they can submit it tomorrow. So there's a lot of short deadlines in this whole process that we're trying to make sure we keep track of. And thank you for Ken and for Tom for keeping us up to date on what those are.
Anything further?
Not on that. No.
Economic stimulus update, a recommendation from the Technical Advisory Committee.
We had, the Tech Committee had a workshop. Was that last week?
Yes, it was.
We had a workshop and with our folks from the Federal Highway Administration, from the Department of Transportation, OP&P, and all of our technical folk, and spent a considerable amount of time discovering both the external and internal constraints that are attached to the economic stimulus package, the ARRA. And Mike had alluded to a couple of them in some of the earlier items on your agenda there. Insofar as time constraints are concerned, there are deadlines that have to be met insofar as turning in transportation improvement submittals and getting these jobs under the ARRA under contract on a use it or lose it type of a scenario. After all that was heard and all that was done, what we are bringing to the policy committee for your discussion and a decision is the $2.1 million and some change economic stimulus allotment for the urbanized area, our NPO. It can be spent in a number of ways. One method would be to select a project of regional significance and spend the entire $2.1 million on a single project. The only project that currently is shovel-ready and therefore can be considered a candidate for this money is the Burns Road project. The difficulty is that the $2.1 million will not complete the Burns Road project in its entire scope. So as a result of that, The tip sheet, and you have a copy of that in your handout here, provides for a phasing of the Burns Road construction from beginning at Career Center Road and extending easterly for a certain length and ending at an intersection so that it has some logical termini. So that's a single project concept. Another concept that we bring before you for your discussion and decision would be to take the $2.1 million and divide it out among the member agencies to do typically some type of resurfacing projects on the federal aid system within your communities. And we've not discovered an exact mechanism whereby you could divide those monies out. However, we did discuss and we did review at some length a more commonly used mechanism that is by population. And somewhere in your packet, I think that you have an idea of how much money each of the communities would receive should the population...
No, you don't actually.
You don't have that? No. Okay, well, why don't we...
Anybody keep it from last meeting?
Yes, I did. Give you an idea of what you're talking about here. And these are approximates based on that was March 17th, right?
Yeah, well, it was punched us. You made it. You can solve it. You can get that.
I'm sure I got it. It's just a matter of that. Okay. I beg your pardon.
Whether we were on.
Okay, Roland Park population 827. That would result in $26,866. Bourbon A, 18,206 on our population model here would result in $591,442. Village of Bradley, 14,640 population would result in $475,597. City of Kankakee, 27,910 population would result in $906,688. The unincorporated areas of the county of Kankakee within the urbanized area, 3,417 population would result in $111,005 for a total of 2.111.598 million in that regard. So that's a example of how to be done. So we bring those two possibilities before you. We believe that both of them would work, and it's a matter of deciding which of those two scenarios the policy committee would prefer, how they prefer to see the economic stimulus money used.
Is there a motion? Well, maybe discussion first.
You make a motion? I can make a motion. I mean, if you want to just get to a motion for discussion purposes, that's fine. I move to accept Burns Road as the project.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion?
Can I add for the record too that I'm seconding it based on an email instructions from Mayor Green?
Does everyone have the tip sheet for that?
Yes.
Let me go on record as stating that while I'm not opposed to Burns Road, I'd like to make a point of clarification here that, so it's my understanding the $3,900,000 of the AARA from IDOT is going for Armour Road, and then an additional $2.1 million would go for Burns Road. And then how is the rest of the county benefiting other than by the 115 and 17? I think are the only other two ARRA projects in the county.
115 and 17, yes, and then some various locations we're doing guardrail and then some pavement markings on the interstate. I mean, it's a program to get people to work. You know, I mean, it's a stimulus program and shovel-ready projects, and that's how the chips fall.
Which one would hire more people?
I couldn't tell you which one would hire more people. I don't know
Let
how many
me,
contractors would be allowed, or how many people would, how intense the labor force would be. We don't know.
Burns Road, what's the length of Burns Road?
Total length of it?
1 mile?
It's 1 mile. The phase that's being proposed would be a third of a mile, but it would include the upgrading of 45 at the intersection.
And total cost is $4,161,000 for a mile?
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Close to that,
And that the design then is not 3 lanes with curb, gutter? I mean, what's the design that would make it cost $4.16 million when a typical mile of 3 lane with curb, I think has been let at $2.1 million. Why is this twice the cost of a typical?
This one includes approximately 1,000 feet of Highway 45 that has to be milled and overlaid. Signalizing that intersection at 45. That's going to be the biggest. I mean, that's the biggest increase right there, just in that.
Okay, well, that's just by virtue of an explanation. Is it a typical 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane? 3-lane.
Where do you get the cost of $2.1 million for a 3-lane for a mile at 2.1? I think Cardinal Drive was just let without basically no intersections being done. It was $3.some million. And that's
Is it 3.1?
It's 3.1 or 3.2.
2.1.
It was let at it's done at 2.1.
2,097,000 is my.
That's correct.
With no intersections, all right?
Correct.
No signalizations, no deceleration, acceleration lines.
Well, that's.
I'm just saying that's the difference.
Okay, and just for the record, I want to note that it's.
Also for the record too, then, I mean, Burns Road would have been done if the policy committee hadn't, or the committee hadn't changed from 50-50 to 80-20. If it had changed when Burns Road was first up on the MPO, this would have been a done project. You'd probably be talking about Cardinal Drive in the ARRA project right now. You wouldn't be talking about Burns Road. That had been done at 80-20. So, you know,
With all due respect,
With all
the
due respect,
opportunity was still there that it could have been requested at 80-20
well,
at that point.
I wasn't here then. I couldn't, you know, with all due respect, I couldn't put that in. But the fact of the matter remains is that it changed afterwards, and also the cost doubled since that point, which is the reason why Cardinal Drive was put on hold for a while too, because the cost had doubled, and then the 80-20 came in, which is fine. We have no issues with that. As long as going forward, 80-20 is the standard. So.
I'm glad you said that, because then let me suggest that if the ARRA money could be used for one project, I would agree that it can move all other projects forward. And if that were the case, then I would have no problem supporting the one project. But if you would refer again to the page of March 20th, I think it can still be accomplished. If the FY 2010 cost is by ARRA money, why couldn't the FY 2013 be $1,217,680 in STPU money and $832,320 be in local share? Because then Bourbonnais will have paid for 20% of its total project.
Bourbonnais will still pay for it at the 1.64. So.
I don't understand.
This is stimulus money that wasn't on the board when this all came up, so that changed the game. Unfortunately, other projects were in the mill and already bid on and couldn't be part of that. And that's a shame, but this is the next project up, this can move things forward. And in fact, if we can get STPU money available before 2013, we'd take that at the 80%. So, you know, I mean, it's just a project that we think needs to be done.
And I don't argue
The whole
with
area.
you, is what I'm suggesting is that if the total cost of the project is $4,161,598, and 20% of that is $832,320, correct?
However, that
Is Bourbonnais willing to pay its share of the $4,161,000, the same as everyone else now at 80/20?
that may be the case in 2013, we don't know that now.
Well,
I
but,
mean, because now is the time, as it was stated earlier, it's an unusual event. The money is made available, there is no stipulations on percentages on that, and that's, you know, that's what we're requesting, so.
well, and if Bourbonnais were willing to pay their $832,320.
Bourbonnais would have been ready back when it was on the board for the MPO and before the cost doubled too. So, I mean, you know, there's.
Well, is that a yes or a no, sir?
No, sir.
So you're not willing to pay your 20%?
Not at the full $4 million, no.
But you're willing to pay the 20% of the STU funds?
Yes.
Because there are two different types of funds.
And so you're asking the village of Bradley to give up $475,597, so that you say $422,000 and get a $4 million project for what, 10%?
And I'll speak from Mayor Green's standpoint on this, because I did talk to him, he's the one that's be giving up $1 million, so to speak, is that the intent of this money is to do projects that benefit communities. They're supposed to be projects that have been on the board. I don't think the intent of ARRA money was to be used as overlay money, you know, to be a windfall for overlays. I think it's to be used to be for regional significant projects, of which this whole committee has voted as Burns Road as being a significant project for many years. And, you know, by doing this project in this manner, again, if we were able to get the STU funds, I think Bourbonnais would bid the project out 100% today, but they'll bid it out as soon as they can, whether it's FY 211, 12, or 13, whenever they get the funds. But the point is, it's a shovel-ready project. It's ready to go today, it's ready to be done, and it just happens to be the one in the line. And the way the mayor said he looked at it, when he looks at it, it just moves him up quicker in the ladder to be able to get his next project done. Where before, you know, they fell back in the ladder, as did Burns Road, when we changed our allocation from 2 years to multi-years and let Cardinal Drive go, and we actually did multi-years to allow Cardinal Drive to move in so that they could get their project done and get it funded without being a burden to the village as far as having to pay 50% or 30% or whatever it was, and they did change the rules for that. This committee has done it several other times. They've done it with the village of even Roland Park on Bitlow Road. If I remember right, we gave an extra $100,000 to help that project along because of just funding at the time. It just happens to be the time that this is. I don't consider Armour Road, from my standpoint, I consider anybody in this county uses Armour Road as much as anybody in Bourbonnais uses that. So I don't see that as money that's going to Bourbonnais. It's supposed to be on the east side of the north side of Bradley just as well as it is in Bourbonnais. So, you know, I think the projects are intended, or the money's intended for projects that are ready to go, that have regional significance and have been previously approved, and that's what Burn Road is. And that's why the mayor's in favor, because the way he looks at it, he gets money quicker for, hopefully for the next project, which could be Brookmount Boulevard Bridge, which again is going to be a regionally significant project. That's a, even though it's located in Kankakee, it's not a project that's just going to aid Kankakee. It's going to aid Bradley just as much as it does Kankakee. It'll aid Bourbonnais for people that are transiting back and forth from Bourbonnais to go to jobs. It'll make health and safety, be able to get emergency vehicles under that viaduct. And you know, it's the city of Kankakee that's absorbing the brunt of that. But he's willing to step up to the plate and get moving on it to see this project go.
Well, and I would like to hear his opinion of adding an additional $422,320 to STPU money that would be available if Bourbonnais were willing to pay their merit 20%.
I talked to him about that. And he was going to be here. He sent me an email asking to do it. I did talk to him about it. I explained what was being proposed, and he had no problem with it the way it's being proposed.
I'm sure it will. Anyone else? There is a motion and a second to approve the Burns Road project at 9010. Is there any further discussion?
Well, honestly, I don't think all we have all the information. I was unaware of Urban's position of the money. I'm not saying you know, okay, you have to be 100,000, 400,000. I would like to know which one, you know, we say stimulus money, we say, well, road, well, which one stimulates the best? I really would like to get that answer. You know, as if I'm gonna make a decision, and it appears that the $26,000 is gonna make that decision. But if I'm gonna make that decision, I'd like to, you know, I'd like to know some things. You guys are all, tell me, which one is the best stimulus for the county?
As far as jobs go there,
Okay,
I mean, that.
yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Full road construction job such as Burns Road, I mean, I'll just speak from 30 years of experience, 36 years of experience in this. It would employ, you know, both, it would employ underground contractors as well as excavating contractors, as well as road builders, concrete people for curb and gutter. Your asphalt people will, you know, employ electricians because of the traffic signals that will be involved in it. Basically an overlay, and of course you have your milling, all these have pavement marking people will be involved with it to meet all the regulations. Companies that provide road closure and laneage, you know, lane control. If you go through an overlay program, you basically will have the same companies, because I think, and I might be wrong with this, Ken, but I think you still have to provide the proper lane cover marking as far as if you're closing roads and all that. So that would be the same. You would still have pavement marking companies, because you're going to have to remark the streets, and then you would have basically an asphalt crews that would be involved in it.
But you would have the curbs and gutters.
You would have curbs, gutters, electricians for signals, underground, anything like that. So, I mean, you would be involving a lot more trades in a full road construction than you would be in an overlay.
Yeah, the right of way already required.
Yes.
There's a secondary impacts too, is if you build a road, do they count in terms of developers, or somebody goes and sets up a business there that employs somebody for the next 5 or 10 years? I mean, that's,
No, that doesn't.
there's no way of knowing that.
The map doesn't
Yeah.
give you a lot of room for that. But
There's no way, I mean, there's always government agencies that crystal ball everything, just how short they come to predictions. I don't know if there's a science to that or not.
Mayor Grimsley, I would say that without a detailed study, that you would have to say they would both provide the same man hours of employment. Obviously, the Burns Road project would distribute that employment out to
more
different groups,
But
whereas the
there's no
overlay
hours.
project would be concentrated on the
$2 million of hours is $2 million of hours, no matter how you do it. Yeah, right. That's a good.
Some of the preliminary comments concerning the stimulus package that I've been involved in. First of all, the jury's still out with regard to exact reporting requirements. But we do understand that there will be a component in the reporting requirements for the use of the stimulus money to estimate how many jobs are being provided as a result of the work that's being done. To date, the only thing that I've heard is, and I didn't bring it with me, I don't have it, but I've heard that a certain volume of economic stimulus money, a relationship between that and the number of jobs created. So it's a relationship between the money expended and the number of jobs. Doesn't break it out into trades, doesn't fine tune it, Norm, to the type of construction, whether it's new road construction or resurfacing jobs. I think that's still under development. And I think the answers that you've heard here today are all valid answers. But in terms of what is actually and finally reported, ultimately, whatever requirements need to be met, whatever signs need to go up, whatever's on that sign that says your economic stimulus package and it's creating X number of jobs, I don't think that's been determined yet.
Jim, just as a point of information, there was one more thing we discussed, and that was that the terminus that's selected for Burns Road hasn't been approved yet. I think it would be fair to say that it most likely will be approved, but if it's not approved, there has to be some fallback or some plan for how we would react to that.
Can I say one other thing too? And the other thing too, that probably step my own hand off to say this, but the engineering for Burns Road is already done. The engineering for any other stimulus work would have to be done and be done at the rates that are known to be applicable. So you'd be spending a lot more money. You'd basically be double dipping. You're spending a lot more money for engineering fees than you would be going to the Burns Road project. Yeah, I know it. I'm good at that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make one more comment. The comments on Armour Road is IDOT approached the village on Armour Road because it was on their stimulus package, not the village stimulus package. The village didn't chase that. It's been on the package for 2013 or beyond. We didn't know that it was going to get done, and IDOT wasn't sure it was going to get done until recently. So the only thing we've agreed to do is take jurisdictional transfer of that once it's done to maintain it. So it wasn't something that's a windfall for Bourbonnais. It was an IDOT project and program, and Bourbonnais didn't. I mean, obviously we'd like to have it happen. There's no doubt about that, but there was also the possibility that it wasn't going to happen. So I don't think that should cloud this issue.
Well, and for the record, I have to say that I represent the village of Bradley. That I see, other than the convenience of a much improved route that I'm sure much of the citizens of Bradley use, I can assure you that there is a need for Armour Road improvements. And so I'm not naysaying the need for that. I'm really pointing out that in over $6 million of ARRA money there are no projects in the village of Bradley. There are no projects in the village of Roma Park. There may be plans for the use of the STPU money and the earmark improvements in the city of Kankakee. But I have to go on record of saying I could support this with the stipulation that Bradley benefits if STPU money is offset by ARRA money. And the only way that can be accomplished is in its totality, is if the village of Bourbonnais were willing to forego the windfall of $422,000 by paying the 20% rather than the 10%.
No, again, with all due respect to the village of Bradley, I represent the village of Bourbonnais, and I feel that, Bourbonnais took a step back on Burns Road when we couldn't get it done at 50-50, and the village of Bradley benefited at 80-20 for Cardinal Road. So there's the $400,000 difference right there. So, or more. So that would be, I guess, our position on it.
Any further discussion?
I have a question for a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Grimsley?
No.
Mr. Spathis?
Yes.
Mayor Green?
Based on his email here, his proxy vote, I'm voting yes.
Okay. Mayor Kent?
No.
Chairman Bosser?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
That's all the voting members are. The vote is 4-2.
Motion passes. Anything further under economic stimulus?
Other than that,
Unfinished business, update on 6,000 North Road.
6,000 North Road is on schedule to get the project report approved here shortly, and be able to move into the next phase.
Update on Brookmont Boulevard project.
Again, our schedule hasn't changed on that. We're still on schedule with meetings with Canadian National and finishing up getting the project report submitted.
Update on Riverfront Trail.
Riverfront Trail, the final plans have been submitted. We anticipate letting in June 12th.
June 12th.
June 12th.
Update on Burns Road.
Well, Burns Road, as it moves ahead, there will be some adjustments needing to be made to the plans, but it should be ready, should be able to get it ready for July lighting.
Anyone here from Medco to give a report?
Be me. They continue to be 20 to 25% ahead of last year every month.
Parking of the cars.
That's true. I should say that the governor's budget has for the first time ever for this River Valley Metro, has the correct number for downstate operating assistance funding in the budget.
We don't have the budget, but we
They
got
don't
the
have the
correct
money, but
number.
they got the right number in the budget, so.
We're closer.
I guess that's a good plan, good thing. We didn't have either one of them before, so we're happy with it.
That was a nice open house, by the way.
Sorry, I missed it.
IDOT.
Just repeat the urban status of IDOT projects is status quo except for the additions of the ARRA program, which is 17 from Lau Road east 4.3 miles to Illinois Route 1 Junction, and the 115 from the village of Irwin to Kerner Airport, that's building resurfacing. And then there's various locations where there's some end terminals and guardrail replacements. And then also, last but not least, various locations, pavement markings on the interstate, which will be in the Enfield area locations. That's it.
Friendly safe routes to school.
The progress schedule remains unchanged. We are currently working on the preliminary plans, which will be completed in May. The intersection design study is finished.
Owen Park safe routes to school.
We are filing we're getting our plans ready for the submittal to IDOT. We should be on schedule to get that into the June or July letting.
Any other unfinished business? Long-range transportation plan update.
The same speech I gave at TED. We are exactly where we were a month ago, because we've been doing ERA business totally since then. It'd be nice if that wasn't one of the requirements to get finished this year, because it's being shunted back all the time.
New business, Illinois Planning Assistance Grant Program.
I got a couple of bits of information on this that you should be aware of. We have $25,000 left in the pot for this year to award. So please, if you have something in mind, let me know. Second thing is that this particular pot of money in the governor's budget is zeroed out for next year. So we may or may not, depending on the battle, receive funding for this again.
It was good while it lasted.
Yes, it will. Hope you took advantage.
Policy Committee Training, NPO 101.
This is in recognition that we are going to have a brand-new set of policy committee members after May. The person who's been on the policy committee the longest will have been on there for 2 years, so this is going to be interesting. So we've asked FHWA to come in and do some training in May or June. We don't know exactly when. We've decided to call it NPO 101, which is the preliminary course in the NPO, so we will be doing that. And you're welcome to come back if you want to and figure out what it was you just did for the last 20 years.
Sit back and smile.
Yeah, because it's not anything like what they tell you it's supposed to be. I'll be laughing all the way.
Norm, I'll hold the minority party version of that at a later time.
So it actually works. And then the other thing I want to talk about, Jim, you got the reauthorization? No, everybody, okay. One of the things you got today was a notice about the federal transportation bill expires September the 30th. And there is an intent to get the new bill out by October 1st. I should tell you that the last 2 times it's expired, they've been 2 years late each time, so I'm not holding my breath on this, but the letter seems to be a little bit more urgent than it has been in the past, so maybe it'll happen, I don't know.
So this might be one of those things that you want to do in May real fast to talk about? Oh, okay.
I'm afraid they've cried wolf so many times that I don't necessarily believe that we've got a crisis right now. But if we don't reauthorize, the amount of money that Illinois gets after October 1st is reduced drastically, which is not good.
Well, they'll probably use the excuse that they're working on the ARRA.
The second group of it, or something like that.
Put it in the bag.
We can see it coming, can't we?
Any other new business?
I don't know.
Next scheduled meeting.
April the 8th meeting will be on the 4th floor, so please note that. And if you come to this room and there are a bunch of people you don't recognize, you'll know to go to the 4th floor.
Is there a May 6th meeting also?
Yes, there is.
We did that one. Second floor, or?
That's here. And there'll be a June 24th, and that'll be in this room too. When you add a meeting later on, the room is this popular room, and it gets put, you get nailed by
But,
it.
you know, again, the need, I know it's a long way out there, but the metro, it's not a bad place to have your meeting.
We agree.
What's the,
Do we get paid gas mileage?
Yeah, all those years.
How about the library?
Yeah.
Library's had a great conference.
what's the purpose of the April 8th meeting? Is that a special meeting?
The April 8th meeting is to get the, whatever this Kankakee Committee came up with on the or the ERA project done in time to get in before the May 1st deadline. And so that the Burns Road project will have had 15 days by that time. That's the major.
And we'll know then, we'll know by that time if everything's kosher on that road, that everything's been approved?
Yes.
I'm glad somebody else answered that because I wasn't going to.
Well, you said it should be, we should know by Friday.
IDOT is totally comfortable with the limits. We just have to get concurrence from federal highways.
And again, that meeting is at 11 o'clock and it's both committees at the same time, trying to save some time.
Just to let you know, we asked the census people.
The April 8th is 11 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous on that one.